different colors, different textures. I've been using a lot of the white background. I'm using the black background tonight. It's Black Friday, so what the hell? I'm wearing black from head to toe. I have Lendell Black, my dear friend, composer, arranger, artist.
Yes.
He is a guest tonight. Thank you so much for making the time for me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You're very special, Lendell. We met with Ling.
Yes, Lynn Lichty.
Right, Lynn Lichty.
Absolutely.
And back then, that was like how many years ago? Maybe 4?
3 or 4.
It's
been a bit.
years ago.
Sure.
And when I saw you, with the piano and doing what you do, I told you back then when we were taping right in the other place. When this place, 59th Street, they were closed for renovation, I said to you, and I don't know if you remember, but we were doing a Christmas show. And you were with your music, and I said, oh, Lendell, man, I got to have you on my show, you as a guest separately, and I'm glad that you're here tonight.
Well, I'm glad it's worked out.
Yes, everything is good. We're going to talk about you, obviously, your background, your upbringing, and your profession.
Sure.
You're very accomplished. Get into your website and seeing the body of work that you have is remarkable.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the beginning, Arkansas, right?
Arkansas, absolutely.
And growing up, and
Yeah.
I want to know when you had the first musical memory, if you can bring us back.
Wow. For me, my first musical memories really revolved, I guess, around church. My dad was a Southern Baptist pastor, small town Arkansas, and so every Southern Baptist church that I've ever known about would have a children's choir. And I remember being a part of that at Christmas time, singing little programs and doing things. And so that was the first memory, at least, of participating in music. And just, I was always singing, always creating.
We're going to have to start again, because we went through something.
I was just going to tell.
That's okay, baby. Don't worry. We're warming up. Make sure that you get the DVD. Well, not DVD. We started from the get-go. It doesn't matter. Because I see something switching there, so we're going to get
All
it back.
quiet on this. Coming up on you, Sissy.
All right, welcome back. We're celebrating today the Black Friday, black dress, black bathroom, black boots, and my dear guest, my friend, composer, arranger, artist, Lendell Black, is here with us. More than happy to have you here, Lendell. This is a very special occasion. Tonight, obviously, we had a good Thanksgiving the night before, and that was a Gloria Messer's house with all kinds of friends, and me, myself, I ate my meal, and then I was doing the dishes and getting the kitchen clean. And I said to Gloria, she was so touched. She said, oh, Sissy, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, she was thanking me, and I said, Gloria, you know how many times you do this work? You come on Friday night, and you just do my work.
Right,
You're my technical director, so this is something very small, that I can just give you back. Because she's, always giving.
Sure.
And,
Thank you, Sissy.
and I love you, Gloria. That was the voice of God in the background. But I tell you, it feels good to have a black background. I like to experiment with different colors, textures. I use white in the background. In the past, I used blue. I wanted to try something different with the chroma key, but when we were setting the lights, something was not right, and I decided to go to black. Black is classic.
Absolutely, always.
So, always. So, Lendell, let's go back to your profession, your musical memory, going back in time, growing up in Arkansas.
Sure.
And please, let's take it from the beginning.
You bet.
Please.
For me, music.
And I love the accent, by the way.
That's good because it's not changing. It's just there. It's a part of me. For me, music really began in the church, I guess. My dad was a Southern Baptist pastor in small town Arkansas, and in every Southern Baptist church I ever had been a part of has a children's choir. And so I started out singing in that, Christmas programs and just other little programs and stuff. But I was really always singing, whether it's around the house or in school.
In the shower? No,
yeah,
not
well,
quite.
yeah, possibly,
But
I guess.
always singing.
Yeah, always singing and always... always just wanting to create music. For me, it wasn't enough to, even singing like hymns in churches and stuff like that, it wasn't enough just to sing it. I wanted to know, well, how else could we sing it? Or what could we do to make this different? Or I remember when I was maybe 5 years old, having a conversation with my mother about some hymn that they were singing in church that day. because I didn't feel like the music matched what the words said. And it was kind of an interesting conversation for a 5-year-old to have. But even at that age, it was apparent to me that music communicated emotion.
Right,
And,
the universal language.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And for some reason, there was a kind of a disparate, just kind of a, it wasn't matching up with what was being sung lyrically, I guess, or whatever. So I had some interesting conversations about that.
And learning to, do you picture yourself learning how to write music? I mean, how does that work? Because it's so, I mean, it's just so incredible to me when I see musicians, even my own sister, she's learning to play the guitar and the piano, and I see her practicing, and you see all these notes. I mean, how do you, I mean, how does it work? What's the beginning for a musician?
Well, there's, at least to me, there's a couple of parts of it. There's the artistic side and then kind of the craftsman side of it. And the artistic part is very intuitive. I've struggled even over the years to understand how to articulate it exactly, because people will say, well, how did you write this piece of music? And I don't really know. I can tell you maybe what I was thinking of. For me, music is tied to visual things as well.
For example?
Even even if I'm not working on a film, which I've done a number of those, but if I'm just writing a piece of music for something else, I always picture a story in my mind that is telling that. I see the images in my mind. I'll essentially create a movie all of my own, just in my head, and then I try to for the music, and then I try to tell that story just using the music. It's always connected to story.
It seems like an impossible task when it's just me. And
it's
to translate all that universal world into music.
Right, yeah.
Is like I said, I'm trying to see if I can break it down in simple terms for people who, like me, are ignorant in music, 100%. How does it work, to create music, to bring it together, to find your own voice?
Well, and that's probably the most challenging thing. I'm 51 years old, and I still feel like I'm doing that to some degree. In the last couple of years, I've come into my own somewhat in terms of understanding, I guess, what I want to say musically. But it's hard to know exactly how to communicate different emotions, because music is so vast. The problem is not, well, there's only one way to do it. The problem is that there's a million ways to do it.
Right.
And with different styles, different genres, different instrumentation, and it can be quite daunting to say that. So for me, what I like to do when I'm creating a piece of music is to go back and understand, first and foremost, music is melody. Before it's anything else, it's a melody. It's just that simple. It's 3 or 4 or 5 notes or 8 notes or whatever strung together to create a pattern that's beautiful, or that's haunting, or that's sad or happy, or whatever it may be. Then it becomes more of a craft to say, okay, now how do I accompany that melody? How do I put chords around that evoke the same mood? And then you kind of go deeper into craft with saying, okay, this is great, but now how do I do this for a mariachi band? Or how do I do this for an orchestra?
Right.
Or how do I do it for a choir, or whatever it may be? It's an art and craft together, but it all starts, I think, with melody. For me.
And what happens when you get stuck in one pentagram? Like one, what do you do to yourself?
I drink a little.
Okay, a little whiskey
yeah,
helps.
a little whiskey kind of helps
kick.
with that, just to kind of jumpstart the process. But no, I listen to a lot of great music.
What kind of music? Tell me.
Oh my gosh! For
me, talk to
me,
me.
Everything from jazz. Like I was a huge Bill Evans fan, jazz pianist from 50s and 60s. To just anything, R&B. I grew up listening to Earth, Wind and Fire in Chicago and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a matter of, I guess, finding something that some people might say, okay, you're writing music in this style, so listen to some things in that style. Maybe that'll help you. And I do the opposite. I want to listen to things that are completely opposite of what I have to write, but are about the same emotion. And for some reason, that frees me up a little bit. It helps me to connect, I guess, with the emotion of it without getting tied to the style, whatever. And sometimes you just got to let your brain reset. You're just pushing the reset button.
And you start all over again?
All over again. And I've done that. I've worked for days on a piece of music and thrown it away. So this just isn't, I've got to start from
really?
scratch. Yeah. Most of the time when that happens, then it takes 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours and you're done. You go, wow, this was what I needed to do. And I don't look at that as waste of time. It's like I had to go through all of that and get it out of my head to be able to get to what really mattered musically.
Right. It's interesting. Now, the creative process, when you're writing your music, when you're creating, is it better to do it in the morning hours, in the nighttime? How does it work? Do you have a system for every piece? Or it changes? It depends on your mood or what's going on in your life?
It changes a little bit, and it also just changes according to schedule as well.
Right.
I tend to create more in the evening, and I edit in the morning. It's kind of a artistic side in the evening, craftsman side in the morning. But you don't have that luxury if you're working on, say, a film. There's a huge deadline, and you don't have a choice. You just have to plow through. Yeah, you know. Yeah. And in the early days, I spent a number of years writing music for Harpo, just as a contract person writing for Harpo. So I had a lot of cuts on Oprah and stuff like that.
Yes, I was reading all about it. I tell you, Butterwork is absolutely remarkable.
But in those kind of things, it was quite often that I'd get an email at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night saying, we need 1 minute of music and it needs to sound like a full orchestra and we need it by 8 a.m. the next day. So and by the way, there's 50 other guys doing this too. You know, so you're going to work all night long. You have no idea whether it's going to even make it onto the air, but you just plow through. And in those moments, you don't have time to kind of sit and wait for inspiration.
Right.
And for me, what that means is I don't mean that you just plow through without inspiration. What I do mean is that composers need to have a process where they keep inspiration bubbling underneath the surface of their consciousness all the time. All the time, so that
that's beautiful. What you just said is beautiful.
So well, it's just I don't know. It works for me, at least as a composer, and the key to that is just living a little life. You know, when you've been through ups and downs and joy and grief and sorrow and loss and all those things, you understand. Yeah, you understand those emotions, and then you're able to kind of pour that in.
Do you think with your music you're able to not even explore your own nature, but to some degree exercise your own demons? Do you have demons, Lendell? Do you have?
Well,
you know, do you? I'm not talking about the shadow, the dark side, but you know, things that makes you unsettled.
Sure, absolutely.
Inside.
Yeah, absolutely I do. I don't. Yeah, I mean, how do you live without that? And I don't know. Maybe demons isn't the right word, but we all live with consequences of decisions either that we made or that others made in our life. I mean, we just do. And life is a process of understanding how to navigate those consequences and how to rise above them when you need to. And music's helped me do that. It really has. I had a conversation just recently with someone about a film, a play actually, and a film, The Diary of Anne Frank. And the conversation was, wow, will this still work in today's kind of environment? Will kids, will students, will people really embrace that, or are they too far removed from that? And my thought is a resounding no, because we're all still living in a time where we experience grief and we experience fear and uncertainty and loss and all of those things. So anything that helps communicate that emotion and helps us understand that, I think, is still relevant in our day. But yeah, music does that for me. It helps me understand, I guess, first and foremost, that there's a lot of other people on this planet that feel exactly the way I feel, that have experienced it. So you don't feel alone. I mean, the hardest thing about consequences or demons or loss or whatever you want to call it is that it isolates us. It makes us feel lonely. And music makes us not feel so lonely. Yeah. At least I hope it does. It does for me.
Music is beautiful. I have I love soundtracks. I mean, I do get into soundtracks and reading and getting to your website and checking your work. Of course, I know you for the last 4 or 5 years.
Right.
But I wanted to, to see the work, to see the website. I was checking you out, and it's incredible, all the work that you had done and working with all this country.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Yeah, the country scene was...
those are big names. Please, bring a little those experiences to me. The country music
scene was new to me a little bit because I didn't... I didn't really grow up immersed in country music. I'm from the South, and so I certainly heard it a lot.
Right.
But I grew up mostly living to kind of gospel and you know, church music to a
That's
degree.
your background.
Yeah, but I had an opportunity to meet someone named Georgette Jones, and she is a country artist, but her parents were very famous. George Jones, she's the daughter of George Jones and Tammy Wynette. And two of the arguably probably the biggest country music legends ever. And she just gave me a chance to hang out and play with her and get to understand that music a little bit. And it was a great environment for me. And she's still out there doing her thing and has great things going on. But from there, I moved into playing with a guy named Aaron Tippin, who has been around for a good bit and had some great songs back in the 90s that were big #1 hits and all that. And we traveled the world together, literally the world, but to Japan, Korea, different places.
Let's talk a little about those experiences, traveling, Lendell.
It's
Tell me.
it's
That's
interesting.
what people want to hear.
Yeah,
People want to hear.
Wow, it's
wild as we think it is, or it's just
yes and no.
Yes
and no. It's there are moments where living life on the road on a tour bus or whatever is everything that you could possibly imagine it might be and more. You know, in terms of all the crazy wildness or whatever, that is about 2% of it. And for those 2%, it is absolutely just nuts. But 98% of it is another hotel, and it's another, well, we've got 14 hours on the bus again tonight, and it's another away from your family and away from the people you love and stuff like that. Most of the people out on the road really are just, you know, it's like it's a job and they love doing it, and you recognize that what's going to happen is I'm going to get on a stage here in a little bit, and I'm going to play for 90 minutes, and people are going to cheer for me, and I'm going to get a check at the end of it, and that's really great, you know.
It is.
But then you get on the bus and, you know, have a glass of wine or you know, whatever, and you kind of go on down the road and do it again the next day. Now, you have to keep in mind too, when I got into that part of my career relatively late, I wasn't doing that in my 20s, and I wasn't doing that for an artist who was in his 20s. So, you know, playing for Aaron, who was, you know, about the same age as me, a few years older than me, you know, we'd already kind of been there, done that and everything. So it was more about just appreciating the music and good friendships and having a good time, hanging out, playing with people that you like and stuff. But the biggest thing for me with Aaron, the biggest milestone was it was the first time I got to play on the Grand Ole Opry. And even if you don't listen to country music.
My husband, I was saying some names, I said, Sissy, those people are big names.
It's huge. It's crazy. And you walk on that stage and you see the names on the doors of all the people. They had their dressing rooms and all these people that have been around for many, many years. It's a little daunting. And then that curtain opens and it's live and everything else, and so it was a neat experience, and I did that a number of times with Aaron, and after Aaron I was playing with Lorrie Morgan, who was just a treasure. I mean, just probably the sweetest person I've ever worked with and for in my life. Just wonderful, and once again a powerhouse singer from more in the 90s era and stuff, but she's still going strong and doing well. And she actually was, I think this is still true, but she was, for many years, the youngest person ever to be invited to become a part of the Grand Ole Opry, because that's by invitation only that you become a member. But I played a lot with her. I think the scariest thing for me they were very different. Aaron was very regimented. Like, here's our set list. We're going to play this tonight, and we're going to play it tomorrow, and we're going to play it a week from now. And he would say mostly the same things, and the show really went that way. Lorrie was much more the third song in. She's like, I don't want to do this song. Let's just do this. Let's go to this.
Wow.
And what made it interesting is she would, and this happened several times, she'd say, let's do this, and it would be a song I never heard of because I didn't grow up necessarily. It'd be an old song, maybe that her dad, who was a big country music singer, or some of her heroes from the past had done, and I wouldn't know it. And I'd be, here's what you do. You say, absolutely. And then you turn to the guitar player. You say, what key is this in? And you just kind of do it. Well, fortunately, so much of country music, I mean, there are certain songs that really are driven by the piano, but so much of it is driven by the guitar. And as long as it is, then
you can find
one time around, you're gonna kind of feel your way through it and go. But there were a few moments like that that were, it's
This is
interesting,
scary,
you know,
man.
and the
Why-
crowd's out there waiting, and those moments you have to stop and think, okay, I'm a professional. Now I've got to act like one, and I've got to just suck it up and be focused and do what I do, you know. And I'm not about to say that always worked that way. Sometimes it got a little interesting, but
Yeah. What do you like to do before you go to the stage? What do you do? What's your, do you have I don't know, some sort of not a ritual, but something that you like to do? You like to be in silence? You like to have music to chill you out? You like to read? You like to, what do you do before you go on
you know, it
stage?
varies a little bit with, I think, with the music for me. For country music, well, even say, for instance, with Lorrie, a country music show kind of runs a certain way, and after you've done it for a while, even with her show being more fluid, you get comfortable, and so you want to walk out there and be ready to go and be professional. And I would take 10 minutes and kind of just put my game face on and stuff like that. And my thing is like 10 minutes and one beer. That's kind of
And it's gonna
I'm really
put you
going to
in the
sound like an
mood.
alcoholic before the show's over, because
what the
I'm
hell?
Irish,
This is-
and I just, you
This
know.
is what makes you. This is what makes you. This is.
Yeah.
You see, it goes to the point that it's gotta be. We have to go beyond any judgments.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
it gets to the point that everybody is entitled. We're entitled. We're human beings. We're
Absolutely,
not.
yeah.
This is life.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's why I'm asking you, because certain
Yeah.
things like they get you going.
Sure, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stuff, whether it's a song, whether it's a drink,
Yeah.
whether it's a woman, whether it's a whatever it might
Right.
be the case.
Yeah, exactly.
We're human, and God
Yeah.
knows that we have five senses
Yeah.
and we have instincts, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So-
But that you know, just a few minutes to kind of compose myself and maybe have a little drink to kind of settle down. Not really nerves as in like scared, but just
But kinda
the
like-
energy could almost be
Right.
too much, you know, and you want to kind of just get in the right
The
moment.
right amount too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Doing
yeah.
the
yeah.
right amount.
The right amount. Yeah,
The
not
ri-
one beer, not 10 beers.
Not
you know,
10 beers.
I've seen that happen too, and it's not pretty. But but then you look at Lorrie does a Christmas show every year, and she's doing one right now. I think up in Canada this weekend or somewhere. But that's a different thing because hers is very elegant, and
Right, it's
so
a different touch.
yeah, I would spend a little more time by myself before that, and just connecting with the idea of Christmas, regardless of what your belief system is, just the idea of loving people and generosity.
And connecting.
Yeah, right. And so I'd kind of get in that place a little bit because it was just a little different frame of mind. But the last thing I do is there's always a gal back in Arkansas that I'm going to either call or text before there's been a time or two I think I literally was walking onto the stage just because of timing it worked out, but I kind of want to hear her voice before I go out there. So that's the
And
other
it's
part
a
of my
very
ritual.
special energy.
Yeah, right.
You seem to be in a very good place, Lendell.
I am.
You're in a good place.
Yeah,
Your
I am.
life, like everything what's going on, your energy. I don't do energies or auras or any of that. But I go by my instincts, and I can see it that, you know, you're a happy man.
I am.
Are you?
I am. Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting because some of that is just becoming happy with yourself, right?
That's accepting.
Yeah, getting to a point where you say, okay, I like who I am. It's not, I'm not saying I'm amazing or I'm great or I'm anything else. I'm just saying I like me, and flaws and all. And once you do that,
Good, the bad, and the ugly.
oh, well, right, exactly. Because all of that, the good, the bad, the ugly, has made me.
Right.
And that's working okay right now, you know. So I embrace that, and I want to be a better man tomorrow than I was today. But I like who I am, and then that allows me to let other people like me, you know. Yeah. And that figures into even what I do as a composer, because when you're composing or arranging, and there's a huge difference, by the way, when you're a composer, you're writing your own music, you know, for whatever it may be.
Right.
But when you're arranging or orchestrating, you're really taking someone else's music.
Right. You take someone else, and it's a lot of pressure, Lendell.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, how
Yeah.
do you work it when you have all this?
Well, it's definitely
and
a challenge.
The deadlines, man.
Yeah, it's
gotta be
crazy
tough.
because it's when you're doing those things, and I guess where I was going to was with that was to say that you have to like yourself, because you're going to hear a lot of criticism when you're a composer or an arranger, or whatever you may be doing. And you have to be able to kind of understand that's not about you. It may be about this piece of music that you just wrote, but it's not about you. And when you find peace with yourself, you kind of are able to embrace that. But the process, yeah, it's composing versus arranging and dealing with the pressure and the deadlines can be quite interesting, because I do these days maybe more arranging and orchestrating for other people than I do writing my own piece of music from scratch. So they're giving me a melody and chords, or maybe they're playing it on the piano or something, and they're saying, we need you to turn this into an orchestra playing this same stuff. What makes that challenging is that it's still kind of, it's their music with my vision of their music, I guess, and that sometimes takes a few passes to come to agreement on what needs to happen. You know, it's because these people, they just like me, they're artistic, and they have a very,
and they know.
Yeah, they know what they want.
They know what they want.
Yeah, and so you're kind of going about it sometimes from different angles and stuff, and it takes a bit. Going a step further would be working on a film where you're maybe talking to a director or producer or something like that, and I've worked with some people who really had great musical instincts, and I've worked with some people who that wasn't necessarily their strong suit.
Stone
you know,
age, like me.
Yeah, well,
But
or just like not having.
But the sensitivity for music, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, I don't know, the soundtracks and all that. That's exciting. That's beautiful.
But I think the challenging thing with a director or a producer is they may not have the musical language. Like they certainly have the artistic sensibilities, and they understand emotion, but we may be speaking two different languages. So for me, one thing that helps in that process to kind of diffuse the tension and come to a good place is to talk about it in non-music terms. So the biggest question I ever ask any director, producer, anyone I'm arranging or orchestrating for, and not just for the whole song, but sometimes note by note or measure by measure, is what should people feel right here? What do you want people to feel? What should they be experiencing in this moment? Because if they can tell me that, I can find a way, I think, to communicate that musically. If they're supposed to be afraid, or if they're supposed to feel a sense of bittersweet loss versus horrific, terrible loss, you know, there's a lot of different facets to emotions. But if they can be specific with what they want emotionally, then I can tell that story musically. So I kind of approach it from that angle. And
it seems like to me it's an impossible task. I mean, to be able to have a musical talent, skill, the sensibility, Lendell. I don't know, how do you do it?
Well, it's much of it is intuitive, at least kind of the beginning process of it. And then it becomes artistry and craft and saying, okay, I understand this melody, and because I've written a whole lot of pieces for orchestra, I understand already. I've got like 10 different things in my head that I know I can do this to evoke a certain type of emotion, or a different instrumentation, or whatever it may be. And
what about the Yamaha experience? We've got 4 minutes left, 3 minutes left.
Okay, Yamaha has been great. It's been a fantastic thing in my life. A guy named Chris Giro, who is the founder and the head of Yamaha Entertainment Group, which is a part of Yamaha Corporation, but they specifically are dealing with events and artists. And right now, their flagship artist is a guy named Nathan East, who, after many years of playing for everyone on the planet, probably the most recorded bass player in history. He did a solo record last year that was nominated for a Grammy, and I did I think 5 or 6 string arrangements on that. But it was a pure, like I did something for a great friend and wonderful artist in Oklahoma. I orchestrated a record for her, and the engineer for that record was doing the Yamaha project, and he just called me out of the blue and said, hey, you want to pop over and have a meeting and talk about this? And that's kind of how it started. And they've been great for me. I've done several things with them, and through that, I've started working with another guy, a blues guy named Keb Mo, which has been fun, and I'm just kind of working in a lot of different things for them. But probably the biggest thing recently is they asked me to arrange and orchestrate a short piece called The Gift, which is just a Yamaha branding film. And I found out, I think just yesterday or 2 days ago, that it's been nominated for an Emmy. Wow,
that's big news.
Yeah, so I'm so tickled with that, and you know, I mean, it's
How
and
exciting,
Chris
man.
he's the composer for that, and it's a beautiful thing. He played it on the piano, and he gave me the freedom then to take it and make it emotive, and it was wonderful.
run with it.
Yeah, so it was good. We make a good team in that regard.
And you've been in New York for how long? You came here to celebrate the holidays.
I did, yeah, just hanging out and came to see Lynn Lichty and her and Ron.
I'm going to be interviewing her next week.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So
Yeah,
we hung out
yeah.
with them and saw the parade and just did all sorts of fun kind of tourist things and everything. It was a blast.
What
So,
about today? Shopping today?
shopping today through Chinatown and just all that kind of stuff. Tomorrow we're going to see the Rockettes and I've never really done all this stuff. I come here to work, so it's been
Right.
fun to come
Right.
and be a tourist, and it's given me a renewed understanding of why the city is so fantastic. It's just
This is a
amazing.
irreplaceable place.
Yeah, the energy here is.
Right.
I just need to find people who need some music, like who need an orchestra, you
Right.
know, or need an orchestrator or arranger, and I'll just come hang out here all the time because I love New York.
Please, we
It's
need you here,
brilliant.
man. Like I said, we made the connection through Lynn. And when I saw you, remember that I told you, I don't know if it was on camera or off camera, I said, oh, man, how do you do it? How do you guys do what you do? How do you make it, when you say orchestrating, and yeah, when I put in the music and putting feelings and bringing emotions and doing this and doing that, I keep listening, but it's unthinkable.
Well, it's
Right,
an interesting
it's-
process for sure.
Yeah,
without
and
a
you should
doubt.
keep your notes too. And keep
I need
keep
to.
notes of
I
your
need to do
work,
more
man.
of that and more of that. I definitely have musical notes in a sense. I have almost everything I've ever written, and I'll go back 15, 20, 25 years and pull something out, and it's interesting to see how that mirrors where I was emotionally or
Right.
just in my life and stuff like that.
Right.
I see the emotional kind of pathway of it, but I need to journal more and write more with
Please
some of those
do.
things.
I want to ask you before we wrap it up. We're almost ready to go, but please, Gloria, just give me a minute. I like the black, by the way. I feel good. I feel a little bit like I'm back to the roots, whatever that means. Soundtracks. What kind of music? What kind of soundtracks do you like? I mean, what kind
Oh,
of?
wow. I mean, I like all the old classic stuff. I love John Williams. I love the great big bold stuff. And we were talking about Enrico
Morricone.
That's just, I mean, fabulous. To me, that he's someone who captured emotion, maybe better than
Yes.
anyone. I love Alan Silvestri, things like Forrest Gump. And he runs from that to crazy, like G.I. Joe, or, you know, he does these crazy.
Yeah, he changed, like so drastically,
It's
right?
amazing the differences, but there's a lot of just wonderful film guys out there. To me, someone who's actually a good buddy of mine, but a huge up-and-comer, a guy named Ryan Shore, who's out in L.A., who's doing some wonderful things. He's doing a Disney program now, but through a number of deals. I think he's been nominated for 3 or 4 Grammys this year. He's also happens to be the nephew of Howard Shore, who's maybe one of my all-time favorite composers, Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. But Ryan exists in his own right. I mean, he's a fabulous writer. So I like looking at people like that and seeing where film music is going. And I think it has a bright, huge, big, beautiful future ahead of it.
Music is a character. Music is part of the film. It's part of like when you have a movie, you need the soundtrack.
Right, right.
Without the soundtrack, baby, that movie
Right.
is not a film.
It's a weird thing to
It is
watch
not a
when I
film.
get it and when I'm working on a film and there's no music.
Right?
It feels really odd.
It feels
Yeah,
weird.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It feels so weird because music
Yeah.
brings so much life
Yeah.
and so much fire and energy. I don't know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
the piano. We were talking about the
oh,
piano.
yeah, absolutely.
You know, the soundtrack is
Yeah.
exquisite.
Absolutely.
You know, and then you have like the Painted Veil. I seen it with Edward Norton, Naomi Watts. It's a different kind of music. It's
Yeah.
a little bit. It brings a lot to it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Which is why for me, when I'm working on a film, oftentimes the first thing I'll do, I'll sit at the piano and I will put something on there with piano that evokes the mood, and then I'll start actually working. But I need that. I need to at least connect the film with the emotion before I can start doing anything else. That's kind of a first step for me.
We had a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Thanks for having
You
me.
know, thank you. Are you kidding me? We had a great time. Gloria, thank you very much. Everybody, happy holidays, happy Black Friday. We're heading to Christmas soon enough. It's going to be a year that my daddy passed away. It's been quite a year for me. I've been through heck. And God knows I'm not lying. I've been through heck. But I'm here. I'm beating. I'm alive. And we were talking, Lendell, life and love is all that matters.
Absolutely.
You know, and knowing that my dad is in a special place. 1 year ago, I was coming here to do my interviews, and my father was in the hospital, and we didn't know he was going to make it. And I remember that I was coming here and sitting down and do my interviews, and on the other hand, I would have my heart in a fist, you know, thinking about my dad. And
absolutely.
now he's not here, but he's out there.
Right.
With your dad.
Oh, yeah. I understand completely.
Very much living,
yeah. My
right?
dad passed away when I was 17, and so I understand those emotions, and I still feel, in a sense, that loss, but also the energy and the love that comes from who he was and who he is, you know, and how do I live him out through me every day, you know, and keep not only who he was alive, but who he is alive, you know.
Right.
So, yeah.